Well, the reflections bit is to show that I wasn't trying to cover everything. It's just the things I happen to be thinking about. And ravaged century, well, it's been a ravaged century. How many centuries have seen wars and massacres in which 20 million people get killed in peacetime in one country, 50 million in another, 20 or 30 million get killed in wars? I think it's been very much the most ravaged century, if you want to put it that way, of any for a very long time, anyway. Well, I think we've won through to some extent. We have got rid of the real driven ideologies, the horrors of Nazism and communism. Well, we haven't quite got rid of them, but at least they've lost their allure, they've lost any attraction they used to have, except here and there in a few backward countries and campuses, you know, that sort of thing. Well, first of all, their system didn't work in the countries they tried it out on. There used to be a joke in Russia, the Soviet Russia, is our system, was it invented by scientists? And the answer was, no, if scientists had invented it, they'd have tried it out first on hamsters. And that's a very true point, because it did ruin the country economically, ecologically, demographically, they lost millions of people, and it also stupefied and stultified everybody. They couldn't be, they weren't allowed to think. The ones who rose to power were people who'd been forced their way up by hypocrisy and by stupidity. It became a rule almost. And they drove the country into the ground. Since 1981. I'm a dual national by birth, American and British, American United Kingdom. I've found a short essay I wrote at the age of 8 and a short poem I wrote at the age of 8 and an album the other day. I don't know if you count that as writing. Publishing, since my first 2 books were 1955. One was a science fiction novel, the other was a book of poems. I mean, published by proper publishers. On the historical side, well, I think 2 things. I'd been in the war in the Balkans from 1944 in Bulgaria, and then later in the British mission there, political. So I was there 4 years nearly. And I saw what happened when a communist regime took over, the terror and the suppression of thought and the ruin of the country. So when I got back, I got interested in communism in general. And in Russia, I found nobody was working on a lot of material that existed. My first book, I think the other answer is inquisitiveness. My first book was just about the struggle for power, the factions in the Kremlin. And this is very little known. You could only guess by various hints they dropped, various appointments. You know, so this wasn't a terrifically anti-communist book. It was an inquiry to satisfy my own inquisitiveness. I mean, people seem to forget that some people really want to find things out. I mean, I've got a piece coming out in next year's Journal of the Society for the Promotion of Roman Studies in England about the Roman place names of Scotland. Now, that's not due to any anti-communism or pro-anything. It's due to I got inquisitive about it. And I think that's the best drive for a historian. And that applied to all the books afterwards. Well, I say idea with a capital I mean one that it isn't just a thought that you or I might have, but a big idea, not only a capital I, sometimes capitals throughout, and exclamation marks and lights, saying, here we have something which is, we know more about the future, about the world, about humanity than anybody else does. Come our way and sacrifice anything for following us. And these are the ideas like fascism and communism. Well, the most important of these driving ideas were communism and fascism and National Socialism. But of course, communism lasted longer and had more of an attraction for people outside the country concerned. If you're not a German, you're not going to be a very good German National Socialist. But if you can be a communist anywhere. I mean, the National Socialists and fascists identified with the nation, the people.